Today I want to share an incredible experience that recently changed my life. What started as an ordinary friendship took an entirely unexpected turn. At the heart of this story is my best friend, whose unusual invitation redefined our relationship. I'll tell you how I found myself navigating a different kind of connection with her and her partner. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Rachel. I'm 24 years old and I live alone in New York City. My apartment is conveniently located near my job, which makes my routine much easier. I work as a supervisor at a well-known clothing store in the city. My life is simple and mostly quiet. Work consumes a significant portion of my time, and when I'm not at the store, I prefer to stay home. Unlike many people my age, I don't venture out often, and my circle of friends is quite small. Being more reserved, I truly value the tranquility of my personal space. Perhaps that's why initiating new relationships, romantic or otherwise, feels particularly challenging. It's hard to meet fascinating people when you rarely step outside, wouldn't you agree? My introspective nature has made solitude feel like a comfort zone. Even during my younger years, I wasn't very successful in matters of the heart. My only serious relationship was tumultuous, leaving deep emotional scars. At that time, I was fully invested in trying to make things work. However, the betrayals were countless. No matter how much effort I put in, it never felt like enough. The most painful realization was knowing I was being taken advantage of, yet I stayed. Perhaps it was out of loneliness, or a naive hope that love could fix everything. Eventually, I learned the hard way that my dedication was not reciprocated. I've been single for so long now that it's hard to remember otherwise. But that doesn't mean I don't know how to enjoy life. Whenever I feel down, I turn to dating apps. As a woman, meeting someone interesting can be relatively easy, and being attractive often helps. Beyond that, I've learned to value my own company and explore my desires independently. Getting to know myself has been an incredible journey. Over time, I've experimented with various toys and accessories, each bringing new sensations and discoveries. My intimate life took a surprising turn when my best friend Jessica presented me with an unconventional proposal. Before diving into that, let me tell you briefly how we met. It's a story full of surprises. Jessica was one of the women my ex-boyfriend cheated on me with. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let me clarify. Jessica had no idea he had a girlfriend, let alone that it was me. In fact, she was the one who alerted me to his infidelity. It all started at a party in a nightclub. They kissed, a fleeting, casual encounter where no one knew each other. 2 weeks later, while scrolling through social media, Jessica stumbled upon his profile. As she looked through it, she noticed several pictures of us together, obviously as a couple. Feeling uneasy, she decided to investigate further. Following tags in the photos, she found my profile and, without hesitation, reached out to me. She told me everything: the kiss, his carefree demeanor, and how he acted as if he had no commitments whatsoever. Her message caught me off guard, but it didn't surprise me entirely. I had already suspected something. I just needed proof. That conversation with Jessica was the final push I needed to start digging deeper. Soon enough, I uncovered more betrayals, confirming all my suspicions. What happened next was unexpected. Instead of becoming rivals, Jessica and I grew close. She was honest with me from the beginning and helped me see my ex for who he truly was. I thanked her for her bravery, and our bond only deepened from there. That was years ago, and since then, Jessica has become my best friend. Over time, I've also developed a unique relationship with her husband, Darian. Darian is an attractive man in his 40s with a stable life. Together, Jessica and Darian have what many people dream of: a home, cars, motorcycles, frequent travels, and financial security. They met at work and have been happily married for 6 years. When Jessica first introduced me to Darian, they were still in the courting phase. That's when I began to notice something peculiar. The way he looked at me was unsettling, almost as if I were an irresistible lure, and he, someone yearning for the unattainable. Initially, I dismissed it as mere imagination, and I decided not to comment anything with my friend. After all, it could just be my paranoia. But over time, it became apparent that it wasn't just imagination. Darian continued with those furtive but persistent glances, and I really didn't know how to react to that. On the other hand, I've always known Jessica and her vibrant personality well. She was the kind of person who lit up any place full of energy, always surrounded by friends and receiving constant messages on popular social networks. Extroverted and full of life, her presence did not go unnoticed. Jessica has never hidden that before Darian. She had several intense relationships and made the most of her freedom. Even so, she managed to commit and build a solid bond with him. Despite these differences between us, she was always surrounded by people and with a busy social agenda. And I, more reserved and with a smaller circle of friends, our friendship remained strong and inseparable. I've always been her closest friend. Although I had several colleagues, I was the one who was by my side at all important moments. If there was a family barbecue, a party with friends, or any other special event, the invitation was guaranteed for me. His home became a familiar place, almost as if it were my own. In recent times, however, I began to realize that the dynamic between the three of us was changing. The friendship I had with Jessica and the way Darian fit into that relationship seemed different. Jessica always treated me like a sister, but there was a new kind of closeness in the way they both included me in their plans and in their most private moments. When we met for drinks, the atmosphere was always relaxed, with lots of laughter and conversation ranging from banal subjects to spicy jokes, without any filter. On some occasions, there was Jessica and Darian exchanging more intimate banter, even in seemingly ordinary situations, such as that day in the living room. We were all laughing and drinking when suddenly they retired to the room for a few minutes. That night I was already a little altered by the drink, and I confess, my curiosity got the better of me. I let myself get carried away by impulse and guided by the effect of alcohol. I walked to their bedroom door and stood there, motionless, listening. The laughter and taunts from before had changed in tone, and he soon realized what was happening on the other side. They were indulging in an intimate and spontaneous moment, something they did naturally, even with home visits. What really surprised me was the impact it had on me. I felt a strange excitement at every muffled sound, every whispered laugh, and to my surprise, I found myself more involved than I had imagined. My body reacted unexpectedly, as if it had a will of its own, and in that moment the line between right and wrong seemed blurred. Before the situation became even more embarrassing for me, I quickly returned to the room, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. Shortly afterward, they reappeared, smiling and resuming the conversation, as if it were just another ordinary evening at that moment. I realized that something inside me was changing regarding our friendship. I didn't know exactly how to deal with it, but the feeling became much clearer when I went to spend a weekend at their house. Jessica invited me to spend Saturday night at her house, saying, "Friend, come here, let's have a barbecue, just the three of us." At first, I was not very enthusiastic, as I usually use Saturday to rest, but at her insistence, I decided to accept. I took a relaxing shower to ward off the laziness of the week. I chose light, comfortable clothes. I passed on my favorite cream and went to the market to buy some beers and meats to go. Even after so many years of friendship, I never went to his house without taking something. When I got there, I honked the horn and the gate opened automatically. Darian was in the garage already with the barbecue on and everything ready for the evening. As soon as I parked, he came to greet me with an ear-to-ear smile. "Let's enjoy it. We have reason to celebrate," he said, visibly excited. I got out of the car and hugged him, curious to know what was going on. Darian, still excited, said they had just bought a house on the beach, an old dream of the couple. I was genuinely happy for them and almost thrilled to see that they were achieving what they so desired. It was amazing to witness this moment, and I felt privileged to be a part of such a meaningful celebration for them. After we talked about the new house and all the details, I asked about Jessica. Darian explained to me that she was getting ready and that she would soon join us. I took the opportunity to sit at the table next to the barbecue and handed him the beers and meat I had bought. With an amused smile, he commented, "You know you didn't have to, right?" I explained that it was my way of showing affection, and he, of course, already knew that very well. While the meat was roasting, We decided to open the beers and start the evening, even without Jessica's presence. Darian put on some music to liven up the atmosphere, and soon the mood became relaxed and light, as it always was when we were together. Approximately 20 minutes later, the initial pieces of meat were done, and, predictably, perfect. Darian has always been an expert at barbecue. I've never experienced anything comparable. After we relished the first round, Jessica arrived, beaming. "Friend, you came! I missed you," she said with enthusiasm. I stood up and hugged her playfully. "I missed seeing you 5 days ago at the store." She had stopped by to buy some clothes. As we walked away, I couldn't help but notice how she looked. Stunning as ever, Jessica was the kind of woman who attracted all eyes wherever she went. Impeccably beautiful and well cared for. The way it makes you think, this one must spend all her husband's money. And to be honest, that impression was not far from reality. She was radiant and, with the same animation as always, started talking about the new house on the beach, said that she was planning a trip to open there and made a point of inviting me. That same night I looked at Darian, who laughed clearly happily, and stated that the three of us would go together. Without taking no for an answer, I said I would love to. But it would have to be on a weekend since I couldn't miss work to travel. Jessica, always full of energy, hugged me enthusiastically, and as she walked away commented, "Wow, you smell so good. What perfume is that?" I had barely begun to answer when she looked at Darian and laughing said, "Honey, she smells that perfume." I was a little surprised by the unexpected order, but it didn't bother Darian, who was by the barbecue. He walked around the table and approached me. He leaned forward and took a deep breath close to my neck, which immediately gave me a chill. Then he walked away with a smile on his face and commented, "It's true. This perfume is incredible. It messes with your head." Jessica agreed, laughing, and said she liked the scent too, with a smile. I explained that it was my favorite body cream, and Jessica was curious. She asked the name of the product. I passed the information to her. While Darian still seemed to enjoy the fragrance, the atmosphere became even more relaxed, and we continued drinking, talking, and enjoying the barbecue, as if that unexpected moment of closeness had made everything even better. We sat there for hours laughing and talking over a lot of beer. When the meat was finally finished, we sat around the table and began to talk about life. It was then that Darian, changing the tone of the conversation a little, asked, "How is it that a woman as beautiful as you is still single?" He knew about my previous relationship problems. I replied lightly, saying that when the time was right, someone special would show up by then. I was happy, enjoying my freedom, and enjoying this phase of life. I joked that, of course, sometimes loneliness knocks, which got everyone laughing. It was then that Jessica, with a provocative smile and a deeper look, asked, "And you, have you ever had any experience with a couple?" Surprised, I laughed at the question and answered, "I never thought of it. If it's already difficult to find a person, imagine a couple." Intrigued by the direction of the conversation, I decided to ask lightly, "And have you ever gone through something like this?" Jessica smiled, answering naturally, "Yes, we always wanted to explore this idea, bringing someone to join us." At that moment, it all started to make more sense. Of course, this totally matched their style. Open, relaxed, and willing to experience new adventures, different from a conventional couple. While this was new to me, I wasn't exactly surprised. I sat there reflecting on what I had just heard, feeling a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Jessica then pulled her chair closer, held my hand firmly, and looking directly into my eyes, asked bluntly, "What are your thoughts on Darian? Does he attract you in any manner?" The question surprised me, and my eyes instinctively shifted towards him. Darian appeared composed, observing the situation with a faint smile, which somehow reassured me. I wondered briefly if she had misinterpreted something. I had never noticed any behavior from Darian suggesting any specific intentions. Yes, I found him attractive and likable, but nothing more. Her question was so direct that it took me by surprise, and I was already a little dizzy from the drinks. I tried to answer lightly so as not to change the relaxed mood. Of course, friend. He's a charming guy and has a presence, right? I replied with a smile, making it clear that there was no other interest on my part. I made a point of being careful that she didn't misinterpret my words or feel any kind of jealousy, as I knew it was a delicate situation to deal with. Jessica looked at me with a mischievous smile and said I didn't need to be so cautious. Here you can say whatever you want without fear of being judged, she assured. Then she revealed something that left me completely speechless. She said that she and Darian had already talked about who might be the ideal person to participate in this new experience, the three they wanted to explore. She let it out directly. Dear friend, we truly desire for you to be that person in our lives. We hope to remain close to you. In that moment, my face flushed, and I was utterly speechless. Jessica started explaining that she wanted this novel experience to be shared with someone she deeply trusted, someone intimate, and that ideal individual was me. I remained dazed. I asked why they selected me and remarked that such a situation might complicate things and jeopardize our friendship. With her trademark calmness, she assured me that this wouldn't happen. She said our relationship possessed enough strength to handle this new challenge and that, in fact, it would only fortify our bond. It's just private, nothing else, she commented. An experiment Darian and I opted to explore, but if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. Just forget this conversation ever happened. I was torn, not knowing how to react to such an unexpected proposal. After a long silence trying to process everything I had just heard, I finally said in a slightly hesitant voice, "Okay, I'll try with you." Still assimilating what that meant, I added, "But if it doesn't pan out, we stop and, as you mentioned, act like nothing occurred." Jessica beamed with contentment and enveloped me in a comforting embrace, clearly relieved by my response. Darian, who had hitherto only observed the conversation, gave me a complicit and tranquil look, as if agreeing with all the care she had promised. I knew I was entering completely unknown territory, but there was a certain confidence in that moment. After all, we had been friends for so long. Jessica, without hesitation, was bolder than I imagined. She came over and kissed me, and I surprisingly accepted spontaneously. It took me completely by surprise, but at the same time, there was something intriguing about that moment. We stood there kissing, while Darian watched everything from his spot with an intense look. Suddenly, I heard the sound of Darian rising from his chair and approaching. Jessica stopped kissing me for a moment and, with a gentle touch, lifted my face toward him. Darian then kissed me, and at that moment, I found myself completely involved. The pace of events was fast, and the intensity only increased. As we kissed, Darian could feel Jessica's soft kisses running down my neck, which gave me chills. That moment turned into something that exceeded all expectations, full of kisses and caresses. We were completely immersed in the energy that surrounded us, until Jessica suggested that we go inside the house to make ourselves more comfortable. As soon as we entered the room, she began to kiss Darian intensely while I watched, already completely engrossed in the atmosphere of that moment. The desire to be there with them grew, as if everything made sense in that moment. So, with a smile, Jessica called me, "Come, friend, now it's your turn." Without hesitation, I joined them, and together we gave ourselves to that experience without haste and without restrictions. As Jessica began to undress Darian, I realized that he was more handsome than I imagined. She also helped me take off my clothes, and soon we were all super comfortable. Darian was an extremely good kisser and could very skillfully touch me with his hands while he tasted Jessica and me. We kissed and swapped each other, and everything was so natural that it felt like we had choreographed that rhythm before. Jessica told me to relax and sat on top of Darian, and it was something surreal. Jessica kissed me and caressed my whole body with a stimulating rhythm. Our smells filled that environment in a way that provided even more pleasure. I soon let Jessica sit down too, but not to lose the mood, I sat on Darian's face, driving the couple crazy with desire, asking for more. Here, the joke started to get very serious. We both sat with our faces on the bed, and Mega cocked for Darian to take turns between us. In order for Darian not to have a heart attack of pleasure, we let him follow the deep rhythmic and concentrated until he led one at a time to their total climax. We enjoyed every moment until tiredness finally got the better of us, and we fell asleep together. The next morning, I woke up next to Jessica. Darian was already in the kitchen, apparently preparing something when he woke up. Jessica hugged me and asked with a smile on her face if I had enjoyed the evening and if at any point I felt uncomfortable. I smiled back and said that it had been an incredible experience, something I never imagined living, and that, yes, I had loved every second. I thanked her with a light kiss, and we embraced, talking and laughing like old friends. A short time later, Darian came into the room with a tray full of an elaborate breakfast: cake, breads, ham, cheese, and fruit. He prepared everything lovingly for us. We kissed him in gratitude and began to enjoy that moment together. After the meal, we indulged in a relaxing shower and spent the remainder of the afternoon relishing a leisurely lunch, deeply engrossed in conversations about life and cherishing each other's company. As the time to part ways arrived, everything flowed effortlessly, as if it was another delightful day among friends. Upon returning home, I reflected on the specialness of the experience without any lingering discomfort now. I'm eagerly waiting for Jessica and Darian to retrieve the keys to the new beach house so that we can unlock it and spend an unforgettable weekend together, just the three of us.